Music has always been more than sound. It's a force, a spark that ignites change. In the 1950s, rock and roll erupted into a post-war world hungry for something raw, rebellious, and alive. Born from blues, gospel, country, and jazz, it wasn't just a genre, it was a revolution.
From Chuck Berry's riffs to Nirvana's angst, from heavy metal's roar to punk's defiance, rock in its many forms have pushed boundaries, inspired rebellion, and connected millions. It's not just history, it's humanity, messy, loud, and beautiful. This is the story of rock and metal, a journey through sound that shaped generations. Turn it up and let it begin.
Origins of the roar, the birth of rock and roll. 1950s, shaking the foundations of a post-war society eager for something fresh, rebellious, and undeniably electrifying. It wasn't just music, it was a movement. Born from the soulful sounds of African-American blues, the swinging rhythms of jazz, and the twang of country music, rock and roll became a melting pot of cultures and emotions, creating a sound that was raw, exciting, and new. Chuck Berry's blistering guitar riffs and electrifying stage presence set the stage for what rock would be, while Little Richard's piano-pounding energy and flamboyant style challenged societal norms. Elvis Presley, often called the "King of Rock and Roll," brought the genre to mainstream America, merging gospel-inspired vocals with an undeniable swagger that had teenagers swooning, and parents raising eyebrows. But rock's early days weren't without controversy. Rumors swirled about Elvis sneaking into black gospel church services to absorb their raw emotion and rhythm. Chuck Berry's riffs. Some say they emerged from an accidental tuning session. These stories only add to the mystique of a genre that was always about pushing boundaries. Rock and roll's power lay in its ability to connect people, offering an outlet for the frustrations, hopes, and dreams of a generation. It gave the young a voice and set the stage for the countercultural revolutions that would follow. Music, at its core, does more than entertain, it heals, unites, and empowers. Studies show that listening to music can reduce stress, boost happiness, and even improve cognitive function. Rock and roll was proof that music isn't just sound, it's a lifeline to our shared humanity, making us feel alive, rebellious, and free. The British invasion, when the Empire struck back. By the early 1960s, American rock and roll had begun to fade, but across the Atlantic, a storm was brewing. The British invasion was more than just a wave, it was a cultural tsunami. Bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Who redefined what rock would be, exporting their sound back to America and sparking a global musical revolution. The Beatles were the vanguard, blending irresistible melodies with youthful charisma. Their arrival in the United States, marked by their 1964 performance on The Ed Sullivan Show, became one of the most iconic moments in music history. Within weeks, the Fab Four were household names, igniting Beatlemania and forever altering the landscape of popular culture. Hot on their heels were the Rolling Stones, who brought a grittier, more rebellious edge to the scene. While the Beatles crafted harmonies that made the world sing, the Stones encouraged it to dance, drink, and defy. Their rivalry, often hyped by the media, added to the allure. Were you a Beatle or a Stone? For fans, the choice defined their identity. Meanwhile, the Who shattered conventions with their raw energy and onstage destruction. Guitar smashing became their trademark, a visual declaration of rock's rebellious spirit. Their experiments with concept albums like Tommy laid the groundwork for the evolution of rock into a storytelling medium. Whispers of secret collaborations and backstage rivalries added intrigue to the movement. Did the Beatles and Hendrix truly jam together in a smoky London club? Were Mick Jagger and John Lennon secretly crafting a supergroup? Such rumors keep the era alive in the collective imagination. The British invasion didn't just give the world great music, it showed that rock could be more than sound, it could be an unstoppable cultural force. It united fans across borders, proving that music, like love, knows no boundaries. The psychedelic shift, rock explores the mind. By the late 1960s, rock music had grown restless, seeking new horizons that reflected the cultural and social upheaval of the time. Enter psychedelic rock, a genre that didn't just challenge the listener but invited them to journey into uncharted realms of the mind. Fueled by the countercultural movement and experimentation with hallucinogens like LSD, psychedelic rock became the soundtrack of a generation searching for meaning. Jimi Hendrix stood at the forefront, his guitar no longer an instrument but an extension of his soul. Songs like Purple Haze and Voodoo Child weren't just music, they were sonic odysseys, bending the rules of rhythm and melody. Pink Floyd, meanwhile, delved into the abstract, creating immersive soundscapes that felt like auditory dreamscapes. Albums like The Piper at the Gates of Dawn turned listening into an experience rather than a pastime. In San Francisco, the epicenter of the psychedelic scene, bands like Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead emerged. With songs like White Rabbit, Jefferson Airplane drew listeners down a rabbit hole of surreal imagery and mind-expanding themes. The Dead's freeform improvisations turned their concerts into communal events, blurring the line between performer and audience. But behind the music was a darker undercurrent. Syd Barrett of Pink Floyd, a visionary in the early psychedelic movement, succumbed to the pressures of fame and drug use, leaving behind a legacy of both brilliance and tragedy. Hendrix, too, faced his own demons, as whispers of his secret studio experiments hinted at even greater unrealized potential. Psychedelic rock didn't just redefine sound, it reshaped how music interacted with the human psyche. It pushed boundaries, celebrated exploration, and underscored humanity's intrinsic need for connection. In a world of chaos, it was a reminder that music could still inspire, heal, and transform, even if just for the duration of a song. The harder edge, the birth of heavy metal. As the 1960s turned into the 1970s, a new sound began to emerge, louder, darker, and heavier than anything that had come before. This was the birth of heavy metal, a genre forged in the industrial cities of England and tempered by the raw energy of American rock. Heavy metal wasn't just music, it was a force of nature, combining aggressive riffs, thunderous drums, and lyrical themes that dared to delve into darkness. Black Sabbath, often credited as the pioneers of heavy metal, set the tone with their eponymous debut album. With Ozzy Osbourne's haunting vocals and Tony Iommi's down-tuned, crushing guitar riffs, Sabbath introduced the world to music that could be both terrifying and exhilarating. Legend has it that their iconic, tritone sound, dubbed the Devil's Interval, was inspired by medieval chants forbidden by the church for their eerie resonance. At the same time, Led Zeppelin was carving its own path. While their bluesy roots were undeniable, songs like Immigrant Song hinted at the epic scope of metal to come. Jimmy Page's guitar wizardry, combined with Robert Plant's soaring vocals, made Zeppelin the architects of a heavier, more mystical rock experience. Rumors of Page's fascination with the occult and his collection of Aleister Crowley artifacts added an air of mystique to the band's image. Deep Purple brought technical precision to the table, with Smoke on the Water becoming an anthem for aspiring guitarists. Their virtuosic performances pushed the boundaries of what rock musicians could achieve, setting a high bar for the genre. Heavy metal was more than just sound, it was a cathartic outlet for a world grappling with disillusionment and change. Its unrelenting energy and unapologetic themes proved that music didn't need to be pretty to be powerful, it needed to be honest. At its core, metal gave listeners a place to confront their fears, channel their anger, and find strength in the roar of rebellion. The stadium era, rock reigned supreme. The 1970s marked a golden age for rock, an era where the genre transformed into a spectacle of epic proportions. This was the time of stadium rock, where music wasn't just heard, it was experienced. With soaring anthems, dazzling stage shows, and larger-than-life personalities, rock bands of this era turned concerts into communal celebrations of power and passion. Queen, led by the inimitable Freddie Mercury, epitomized the theatricality of the stadium rock movement. Tracks like Bohemian Rhapsody weren't just songs, they were operatic masterpieces that redefined what rock would be. Mercury's flamboyant stage presence, unmatched vocal range, and willingness to push creative boundaries made Queen a cornerstone of the era. Whispers of unreleased Queen operatic recordings have intrigued fans for years, adding to the band's legendary status. Kiss brought an entirely different flavor to stadium rock, blending hard-hitting riffs with a spectacle that felt like a comic book come to life. With their painted faces, fire-breathing performances, and iconic merchandising, they didn't just play music, they built a brand. Gene Simmons, known for his entrepreneurial prowess, turned Kiss into a global phenomenon. David Bowie, the chameleon of rock, took stadium rock into the realm of art. His Ziggy Stardust persona blurred the lines between character and musician, while albums like The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and The Spiders from Mars made his concerts feel like futuristic theater. Rumors of Bowie's abandoned plans for an alien-themed rock opera hint at his untapped ambitions. The stadium rock era wasn't just about volume and spectacle, it was about connection. For fans packed into massive arenas, these concerts were moments of pure escapism. They were reminders of music's ability to unite, inspire, and transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Rock wasn't just reigning supreme, it was proving it could dominate both hearts and minds. The punk rebellion, back to basics. By the mid-1970s, rock's grandiosity had reached its peak, with extravagant stage shows, multi-layered albums, and a sense of untouchable stardom surrounding many artists. But for a new generation, this excess felt bloated and disconnected. Enter punk rock, raw, fast, and unfiltered. It wasn't just a genre, it was a revolution, a return to the rebellious roots of rock and roll. The Sex Pistols were the incendiary spark that lit the punk flame. With snarling vocals, three-chord aggression, and a "don't care" attitude, they made chaos their brand. Their 1977 album Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols became the manifesto for a disillusioned youth. Controversial manager Malcolm McLaren reportedly orchestrated much of the band's antics as a publicity stunt, but the Pistols' fiery authenticity still set the world ablaze. Across the Atlantic, the Ramones were carving out their own path in New York City's underground scene. Their stripped-down sound and rapid-fire songs, like Blitzkrieg Bop, gave punk its relentless energy. Behind their leather jackets and cool demeanor, however, was a band fueled by creative tension. Rumors of near breakups and internal strife only added to their mystique. The Clash, often dubbed the thinking person's punk band, brought a political edge to the movement. Songs like London Calling and White Riot addressed issues of class, race, and social unrest, proving that punk could be both angry and insightful. Punk rock wasn't about virtuosity, it was about passion. Its DIY ethos inspired countless fans to pick up instruments, form bands, and create their own scenes. At its core, punk reminded the world that music didn't need to be polished to be powerful, it just needed to speak the truth. For listeners, it was a reminder that rebellion, in all its raw imperfection, could be beautiful. Metal splinters, the rise of subgenres. As the 1980s roared in, heavy metal underwent an evolution, splintering into distinct subgenres that pushed the boundaries of speed, aggression, and musical complexity. From the blistering riffs of thrash to the theatrical flair of glam metal, the genre proved its versatility and staying power. Metal wasn't just one sound, it was a spectrum, each subgenre reflecting a unique facet of its rebellious spirit. Thrash metal led the charge, with bands like Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, collectively known as the Big Four. These bands elevated metal's intensity with lightning-fast tempos, intricate solos, and lyrics that tackled war, corruption, and personal turmoil. Metallica's Master of Puppets became a defining album of the era, while Slayer's controversial Rain in Blood cemented their status as provocateurs of the genre. Behind the scenes, whispers of a supposed secret Big Four jam session lingered, fueling fan imaginations. At the other end of the spectrum was glam metal, with bands like Motley Crue, Poison, and Def Leppard embracing anthemic choruses, flashy outfits, and unapologetic hedonism. Songs like Pour Some Sugar on Me and Girls girls became staples of the era's party culture. Glam metal's success dominated MTV, making metal more accessible to the mainstream while dividing purists and casual fans alike. Meanwhile, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest continued to expand traditional heavy metal with themes of mythology, science fiction, and epic storytelling. Albums like Powerslave and Screaming for Vengeance showcased their ability to blend technical brilliance with larger-than-life narratives. Metal's splintering into subgenres didn't weaken it, it made it stronger, more diverse, and more inclusive. Whether fans sought the chaos of thrash, the spectacle of glam, or the intricate storytelling of classic metal, there was a place for everyone. Through its evolution, metal proved that rebellion could take countless forms, each louder and prouder than the last. Grunge and alternative, rock's 1990s renaissance. By the early 1990s, rock was at a crossroads. The excesses of glam metal and the precision of thrash had dominated the previous decade, but a cultural shift was underway. From the rainy streets of Seattle emerged a sound that was raw, unpolished, and deeply introspective, grunge. At the same time, alternative rock gained mainstream traction, offering a counterpoint to the bombast of the 1980s. This was a renaissance, a time when rock reconnected with its emotional core. Nirvana's Nevermind became the defining album of the grunge movement, with tracks like Smells Like Teen Spirit giving voice to a generation's angst. Kurt Cobain's raspy vocals and confessional lyrics captured the alienation of the disenchanted youth. Despite his fame, Cobain remained an enigmatic figure, rumored to have drawn inspiration from obscure Eastern European punk bands. His tragic death in 1994 cemented him as a symbol of the era's fragility. Pearl Jam, often seen as Nirvana's more accessible counterpart, also rose to prominence. Eddie Vedder's soulful voice and the band's refusal to conform to industry expectations made them icons of authenticity. Lesser known is the story of how Vedder, while working as a gas station attendant, wrote lyrics that would later define the band's debut album, 10. Meanwhile, Soundgarden and Alice in Chains brought a heavier, darker tone to grunge, blending metal influences with raw emotion. Chris Cornell's soaring vocals and Lane Staley's haunting harmonies gave these bands their distinct identities. Alternative rock also flourished, with bands like REM and Radiohead exploring new sonic territories. Tracks like Losing My Religion and Creep became anthems for a world embracing introspection and experimentation. Grunge and alternative music reminded listeners that music didn't need polish, it needed honesty. These genres stripped rock to its core, proving that imperfection could be profoundly beautiful. For fans, the 1990s weren't just a return to rock's roots, they were a revelation. The new millennium, fusion and revival. The dawn of the 2000s saw rock and metal embracing reinvention, blending genres and technologies to create sounds that were fresh yet nostalgic. While some bands pushed boundaries with experimental fusions, others reached back to the past, reviving the spirit of classic rock. The result was a vibrant era where tradition and innovation coexisted, capturing the hearts of old and new fans alike. Nu metal emerged as a dominant force, with bands like Linkin Park, Korn, and Slipknot melding metal's aggression with hip-hop, electronic, and industrial influences. Linkin Park's debut album, Hybrid Theory, became a cultural phenomenon, its fusion of rap and melodic rock redefining what modern rock could be. Fans still speculate about the band's early demos, rumored to feature an even grittier, rawer sound. Meanwhile, the White Stripes and the Strokes spearheaded a garage rock revival, harking back to the raw energy of the 1960s. Jack White's minimalist guitar riffs and Meg White's simple yet effective drumming made songs like Seven Nation Army iconic. Stories of Jack White's vault of unreleased experimental recordings keep fans curious about what could have been. Foo Fighters carried the torch of 1990s alternative rock into the new millennium, with Dave Grohl solidifying his place as one of the most respected figures in modern rock. Albums like Wasting Light showed the band's ability to evolve while maintaining their authentic edge. This era also saw a rise in tribute and nostalgia acts. Bands like Greta Van Fleet channeled the spirit of Led Zeppelin, introducing younger audiences to the magic of classic rock. At the same time, technology made music more accessible, with streaming platforms helping underground and independent bands find global audiences. The 2000s proved that rock and metal weren't just surviving, they were thriving. By embracing fusion and revival, the genres reminded listeners that great music is timeless, always evolving but never losing its rebellious heart. Legacy and evolution, rock and metal today. As the 21st century progresses, rock and metal continue to evolve, proving their resilience and relevance in an ever-changing musical landscape. Despite shifts in mainstream tastes, these genres remain vital, fueled by innovation, nostalgia, and a thriving underground scene. Rock and metal are no longer just about rebellion, they're about survival and reinvention. Modern bands like Ghost have brought theatricality back to rock, blending heavy riffs with hauntingly melodic vocals and an enigmatic stage presence. Frontman Tobias Forge's anonymity early in the band's career sparked curiosity, with fans speculating about the identities of the nameless ghouls. Ghost's success reflects a broader trend, rock and metal embracing storytelling and mystery to captivate audiences. Meanwhile, Bring Me the Horizon exemplifies how metal has embraced fusion. Their early deathcore sound evolved into a genre-blurring mix of rock, pop, and electronic influences, appealing to a new generation of fans. Their journey proves that metal doesn't have to be confined to traditional boundaries, it can grow and adapt while retaining its core intensity. Classic rock also lives on, both through revival acts like Greta Van Fleet and the enduring popularity of legacy bands. Rolling Stones tours still sell out stadiums, and reunions, like Guns N' Roses' Not in This Lifetime tour, reignite fan nostalgia. Whispers of Lost, Led Zeppelin reunion rehearsals in recent years only add to the enduring allure of the genre's pioneers. Streaming platforms and social media have democratized access to music, allowing underground metal subgenres like black gaze, gent, and folk metal to reach global audiences. Independent bands now connect directly with fans, keeping the spirit of DIY alive. Rock and metal today are a testament to music's enduring power. These genres remind us that sound can transcend trends, forging connections and inspiring generations. In a world of constant change, rock and metal remain anchors, fierce, unyielding, and eternally alive.
Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribing to our History YouTube channel means discovering fascinating stories, learning about the events that shaped our world, and gaining new perspectives, all in fun, easy-to-watch videos. Whether you're curious about ancient civilizations, major wars, or untold stories, this channel makes history exciting and easy to understand. Subscribe now to explore the past and see how it connects to today.